Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
I can't hear you!
Aye, aye, Captain!
Oh!
Welcome back to episode 70. Wow, we've done 70 of these of the Locker Room Podcast. I'm your host, Colin Yavinsky. We got Ryan Rodriguez here. It's just us running the show today. Joseph Morales is playing in a game. He's also preparing for states, so we wish him luck there. And have Fred starting his summer job today. It's not an issue, though. We can hold down the fort. But we have a good guest today, so let's just jump right into it. He's a Latin teacher at Prep that's had to put up with us for the past 3 years. He's the varsity ice hockey and soccer coach. Please welcome Mr. Danver.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Definitely. Colin, you want to start off with the first question?
So I've always kind of wondered this about like certain teachers, like what made you choose your subject, which is Latin? What made you choose Latin?
So I think that Latin was really a need at Georgetown Prep and at Mater Dei before I taught at Prep full time. So when I was a student at Mater Dei, I took a year of Latin. And then when I was at St. Albans, I took 4 years of it, and I took it through the AP. And then I took 1 year of Latin in college at Washington College. And as soon as I graduated, I started working at Mater Dei, and they needed a Latin teacher, so I taught a section there. And then Georgetown Prep, as you know, is one of the few schools left really in the world that requires 2 years of Latin. And so really always is a need for Latin teachers. So I actually studied English and history was my major in college and then in grad school. So I've always said that the subject that I teach or the sport that I coach doesn't matter nearly as much as making the relationships with the kids. It's all personal relationships that you build. But when I was in school, probably English, history, and Latin were my favorite subjects, and I certainly love teaching Latin.
Definitely. Now, I know that you mentioned that you said you teach at Mater Dei and Prep, and I don't know how well you can answer this question because we have a Mater Dei and Prep audience, but would you say that what do you enjoy teaching more, middle schoolers or high schoolers more?
I think that it's just a different set of problems. It's a different set of things that you're teaching. But since I was 14, I've taught swim lessons to kids who are 2 years and up. So I've coached kids that were 2 years old just learning how to swim, and I've taught 18, 19-year-olds. So again, not to go back to the same cliche, but it's all about building relationships with whatever age group you're working with. And so for me at Mater Dei, teaching first and second grade PE, there is no greater feeling than watching 26-year-olds sprint down a hill to come take PE. And in their minds, I was a professional athlete, and I was a superhero to them. And so there's certainly no better feeling than that. But then to teach 7th and 8th graders and to see that they're changing, they're growing from boys to men, and seeing their progression over those 2 years, that's really special.
Definitely. So one other question, I want to jump into the to hockey, because I know you coach at hockey too, and you also coach soccer team. We'll also get into that, but I mean, so does your approach to coaching change on like how the kids like compared to like maybe coaching Colin or maybe coaching Hedford or maybe even coaching Joe? Like, do you think is there a different like approach to that? I'm cutting out.
No, I don't. No, it's not. I don't think you're cutting out. I think Mr. Danver's cutting out.
Oh God.
I
Yeah,
don't
right.
think it's Ryan though. Oh no.
Oh, where did he go? Oh God.
Well, that just about does it for the Locker Room Podcast this week.
We're having some severe technical difficulties, as you can see. We have no clue where
I'm not
Danver.
really sure where we go from here.
I don't even know either. Colin, how are you doing today?
No. All right. I'm just gonna. All right. We'll talk to y'all when it comes back. Okay. We'll talk to y'all.
We're gonna take a pause right
Yup.
here.
See you then. Bye.
Yeah.
All right, we're back. So I'll just ask the next question. Does your approach to coaching change versus like who the person is, like to their personality versus like, or I guess an example would be coaching me versus coaching Heffright or coaching Joseph?
Absolutely. I believe that your coaching approach 100% needs to change depending on the kid. And I talked to a college coach a couple of years ago, and he said that some of his players need a cattle prod and some of his players need an arm around the shoulder. And I thought that was an interesting way to put it. There's no doubt about it. Some of the kids you coach, you need to yell at them on a weekly basis to wake them up, to get them going, and that's what they respond to. And maybe for lack of a better way to put it, some kids deserve that when they're not playing hard, they're not bringing their best game, that they need to hear it. But other kids, probably kids more like I was, I certainly didn't respond to coaches yelling and screaming at me. You need to have an approach where you put your arm around their shoulder and get their best that way. And so it's certainly a personality thing. I think that, Coach Jurek and I were talking about this recently. As a coach, I think that you need to be who you are, and you can't try to be somebody else, and you need to be your authentic self when you're coaching. And if you try to put on some persona and that's not who you are, it's going to come off as phony. I think that you guys know that the team can pick up when a coach is being real with you, when a coach isn't being real with you, when a teacher's being real with you or not being real with you. And so I get that my personality probably isn't going to work for every single kid, but I certainly tried to reach every single kid. I think that, when you talk specifically to your show, I think that Heffright, he's a hard worker. Sometimes you need to reel him in terms of how much he's joking around and trying to make other people laugh. But I think beneath that surface of him, clown at times, he wants to get better at hockey and he's there to compete. I think Colin, you and Joe are a bit more of a similar personality where it's more of a business approach. You're there to get better. Certainly there to have fun, but you don't really have to worry that you're not taking it seriously. But some of the best players that I've coached in soccer and hockey, they've been complete pains in the rear end when it comes to practicing. But then it's your job as a coach to motivate them to make sure that they're ready to play.
Definitely. And I also know that, or at least the audience I think knows that you also coach soccer too for prep. I would say, what do you think is like the biggest difference between coaching hockey and soccer, like in terms of like maybe like scheduling or like games or anything like that?
I would say that a big difference maybe is just right off the bat is the atmosphere. Maybe at some of the games, it was a bit of a surprise when I started coaching hockey. I tell people this story where it was my first or second year coaching hockey, and we were playing Mount St. Joe's on a Friday night at Cabin John. And certainly no disrespect to Mount St. Joe's. They have a strong program, and they've won the the state title several times, but it's not exactly a traditional rival. And our entire student section was filled and going absolutely crazy. And I think that the Georgetown prep community loves showing up to hockey games. I guess it's the Friday night atmosphere. Maybe it's getting off campus. Maybe it's the social aspect of it. And that is a greatly appreciated support. As a coach, you appreciate it very, very much that you have such support. And I think that the soccer team also gets great support at the school. But the games being 4:00 in the afternoon, not in the stadium, soccer not quite being a traditional American sport, some of your bigger games are not played in nearly that atmosphere. And certainly it is one of my great goals at Georgetown Prep as a teacher and coach to continue to build the support for all programs. And I think sometimes some soccer guys say, let's get some more fans. And generally my first reaction is, well, when's the last time you went to a cross country meet? And I think that is something that I want to see. I think there is nothing that brings a bigger smile to my face than seeing Friday night lights of football and the entire student section out there, or at the hockey games. But it would be my hope that we can get everybody out at everything. I think that would be awesome. I think, Ryan, you probably know sometimes you're playing a big baseball game and they're not always the most fans at baseball games. And this year our team went undefeated. And so we have very, very strong programs. And I think we do a good job supporting all of them. And we can do even better. In terms of the sports where it's different, I would say managing that most of your hockey players are going to be in the middle of a club season during hockey season. And sometimes they're on the ice probably too much. And with soccer, it's a little bit easier in that most guys aren't playing club in the fall. But to me, I try to coach both sports in a very similar way. I think I try to coach skills as much as I can. I try to make the practices as fun as possible, while hopefully all the guys realize that we are there to win. So I think there's more similarities than differences, but certainly there are differences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember the first time I ever went to like a prep student or like a prep game too, and I was a freshman, and like the atmosphere that like you get to like experience like in football and hockey too, and even soccer sometimes too, is just second to none in my opinion. Like those like experiences being in like the booster section are just insane. It's crazy to me. But yeah, I know Colin, you had a question too that you want to say.
Yeah, I know this, especially with different players, it's different. But do you like to go into games with like all fired up with emotion, or you like to just kind of keep it cool and just kind of stay contained?
I would say that it's my natural inclination to get very emotional for a big game. And oftentimes before a very big game, I'll be driving into work and just start crying. And I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I crying right now? But for me, my natural emotion is to get very, very wound up, to get very fired up before a game. Usually I'll try to put on some Van Halen tunes, go out for a run before a big game. I try to run on the day. I try to run maybe 5 days a week anyway, but certainly on the day of big games, I try to get out for a jog. And that usually is when I come up with whatever the pregame speech is going to be that day and what I think the team needs to hear. And I try to be as emotional as possible before the game. And I try to use that emotion to hopefully motivate the team. And then when the game starts, I try to be as calm as possible. And I think that it's pretty much my job, first and foremost, to be a cheerleader during the game. I try to be the biggest cheerleader I can be. Certainly, if it's time to get a player fired up, if it's time to motivate a player, I will do so. But I try to be as positive as I possibly can once the game actually starts. I don't think that the team benefits if I'm losing my mind on the sidelines. And obviously sometimes I do. Colin, you've seen it. So I do think there is a time to blow your lid, but more often than not, it's not the time to do that.
Mm-hmm. So you said, I remember that we both said earlier that you've coached both soccer and hockey. Has there been a moment, like either sport really, that you've just had like a pivotal moment where like, this is why I'm coaching, or like, this is why I'm here, like from a game, like a practice, or just like seeing kids develop anyway?
That's a great question. I think that I would think that when you see kids at their lowest moments, and after a huge loss and kids are completely dejected, for you to be able to go over as a coach and thank a player for how hard he just tried in a losing effort, and to try to be there in the lowest of the lows, I think that is where certainly you don't get a lot of joy in those moments, but I think they are very teachable moments. And I think those are times for growth. And I think those are maybe the moments when you really build relationships with kids, where you show them, I'm feeling the exact same thing that you are, and there is nothing I can do right now to make it better. But we need to bottle this loss, and we need to bottle all this negativity that we're feeling right now. And we need to make it work, make it so that we work harder so we don't ever feel this again. And I feel useful when I can be there to help kids through adversity. Mm-hmm. I think that the moments that maybe the question you're asking for, the moments that make it all worth it, I would say, even this afternoon, I saw a couple of soccer players that graduated last year, them calling me on the phone, them texting me, them saying thank you. That certainly is, that makes it all worth it. Do I want to win championships? Absolutely. I never want to lose anything to anybody ever, but it really is, when I think of in this 12 years I've been doing it, just all the relationships I've built with kids, that is certainly what makes everything worth it. And just a simple thank you, and that's something that Georgetown Prep students are so great at the end of practice, at the end of class, saying thank you. You don't realize how much that means to coaches, how much that means to teachers. And I think when you go through all that adversity, you go through all that hard work, the two probably greatest moments of joy that I can think of in coaching at Prep, 2018, in an absolute monsoon at Bullis. We beat Bullis to win the regular season title for soccer. I'll never forget that moment, really, as long as I live. The two IAC titles in hockey, maybe specifically the last one with Clay Lanham and James Flannery were seniors that year, among others, and I had taught or coached Clay for 10 years at that point. And so that was a moment of great joy. I remember Clay as a third grader and then as a 12th grader winning a championship. And so those moments certainly are noteworthy.
Definitely. I know you talk about you talked a lot about having to deal with adversity over the years, and I know you guys have a season coming up for soccer as well. I know you guys always have a good team this year. You guys always go to the IC championship. What do you think the expectations are for this season? And I know you guys having to deal with a tough conference, especially playing Landon, St. Albans. I know they always have a good program as always. Just like, what do you think like your expectations are for this year, and how do you think you guys are going to do this year?
So we just had a mini camp this week, and we have one more practice tomorrow morning. I saw you out there. It's great to see some of the baseball guys practicing out on the diamond. That's been really cool, actually, to be practicing the baseball outfield and just to see you guys practicing at the same time in the infield. It certainly gives me a great appreciation for how all the sports work so hard on campus. And yeah, this would be my, I guess, 8th season as the head coach for the team, my 12th season overall at Prep. And in those 12 seasons, we have not won a championship. We won one regular season championship, but we have not won in the playoffs. Like you're saying, we've made it to the championship game 4 times and lost each time. And so I use that as motivation. I use that as motivation to get better. And I tell the kids that whenever I drive to practice, I pretty much always have 2 emotions. The first one is complete joy that I'm getting to go coach. I'm getting to do the thing that I love doing, and a complete rage that balances it on the other side, thinking about the losses in championship games. And I think if I can balance those 2, that's what makes me the most effective coach I can be. The expectation is to get better every single day. And one of my favorite athletes, Andre Agassi, he said, you have to get 1 day better every day. You can't try to get 2 days better in 1 day. It's not possible. But if you don't get 1 day better each day, that's a lost opportunity. And that's the expectation. The expectation is to get 1 day better every day. And I told the guys that they need to decide how good they want to be. And it's really for them. And I think that we can be a very, very good team. I think this is one of the most talented teams that I've ever had. So far, it's one of the hardest working groups that I've ever had. This is a very good group of rising seniors. So I'm ready to go. I'm ready to coach. And I know that a lot of the kids are ready to play. So I don't like to frame goals in terms of destination. I don't think it's quite the right thing to do to say that our goal was to win the IAC or our goal was to be top 10 in the Washington Post. We certainly have the talent to do that, but it just has to be to get 1 day better every day, and the destination really will take care of itself. Like you were saying, St. Albans is going to be very good. Landon's going to be very good. The entire conference is generally very good. So nothing but respect for the other programs, but certainly that's where we want to be at the end of the season. We want to be in that championship game playing for a title.
So you mentioned supporting players when they're at their lowest. How much of an impact does having like multiple coaches, like in hockey, having Coach Mike, Coach Dante, and Coach Don have in that role?
I think that I have been unbelievably fortunate to have great assistant coaches in soccer and in hockey. And I think that you guys understand as a team, hopefully you do, just how much John, Mike, and Dante put into it. I think that specifically, John puts in as much as any head coach puts into Georgetown Prep hockey. And Mike last year, 2 years ago, I guess now, stepped up to be the JV head coach and the varsity assistant. And Dante, when he is there, when he has the time away from Stevenson, the amount he puts into coaching skills on a daily basis, he certainly is an expert at teaching those individual skills. I think it's a very important point that you're making, that when you have really good assistant coaches, they can reach out to some kids that maybe you don't have the best connection with. And sometimes when they don't have the best connection with the kid, maybe you do. So I think that as the head coach, I think it's my role to plan the practice, to think about what we need to work on. But then I really believe you have to empower your assistants to coach. You have to let them coach. And I think that the assistant coach in hockey, they know the game just as well or better than I know the game. So I certainly depend quite a bit on them to fill a lot of roles, and I'm very lucky to have those guys as assistants.
So I know that you come from a family of coaches. I know your dad also coached soccer as well, and he's been a legend at Churchill. And I just want to know, has your dad ever had like an impact on you as a coach for soccer?
Thank you so much for that question. Yeah, I generally don't feel very comfortable really talking about myself and anything I may or may not have accomplished, but I'm generally very, very comfortable bragging about my dad and my mom as well. My dad coached at Churchill for around 25 years, and he certainly accomplished about everything you can accomplish as a high school coach. And yeah, he is a complete inspiration to me on a daily basis. And getting to coach with him the last 2 seasons has been an absolute blessing and something that I cherish every minute of. My mom has coached swimming for the last 40 years. She's taught probably more people to swim than maybe anybody. And what I've learned from them, one thing that stands out is how to run a practice. And I am very, very fortunate to have from them the skills of how to run a practice. And what I've taken from them is if the kids are moving the entire time, you're probably having a good practice. If the kids are standing in a line, you're probably not having a very good practice. I think the other thing I really learned from them is what true commitment is. And I think it's probably my biggest job to try to teach kids what it really means to commit and to be all in on something. And I tell the story that the reason that I was born on April 27th was that it was the only day my dad didn't have a soccer game. So my birth was planned around my dad's soccer schedule. It was, oh, yep, this is the day I don't have a soccer game. This is the day we're going to come in, and this is the day we're going to happen. My dad never missed a practice for anything at any time. And he was always there for me as a father. He was always there for my 3 older siblings, but he never missed anything in terms of a practice, in terms of a game. It didn't matter. He wasn't going to miss. My mom, the exact same thing. When she coached swimming, didn't miss anything at any time. She was there to coach. And so I think the saying goes, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, is something that I have taken from them. You have to show up, you have to be all in, you have to be willing to give everything and teach the kids that that's what it means to be part of a team. So I have been very, very lucky to have the parents that I have to teach me the values that they've taught me and to really teach me how to be a coach.
So I think we only got 1 or 2 more. What is that commitment, that all in mentality? Is that what you look for when you're looking at new players?
Yes. How committed a player is and how hard that player works are probably the 2 biggest qualities that I look for in a player. Talent is great, and the ability to win a game with skill is great. But yeah, for me, it's work rate and it is the commitment. And that to me supersedes everything else. If a player is willing to show up to everything and a player is going to give his very best every time, that's the guy that I want on my team. That is the most important thing.
Definitely. So I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Mr. Danver, I just want to say thank you again for being on the podcast, taking time out of your schedule to come out here and be on the podcast. We really do appreciate it. So this has been the Locker Room Podcast. We'll be signing off, and guys, have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Definitely.